Terraforming Mars has been the stuff of science fiction for generations, but in this day and age, scientific organizations like NASA take the idea very seriously. The idea is that you could take Mars and essentially convert the environment into a place that's more suitable for life and turn Mars into a second Earth. Now, this might sound like a radical idea, but like I said, it's something that scientific organizations take very seriously, and it's something that would have huge payoff for the human race. Now, when I was in college, I was taking a synthetic biology course, and one of the students in the course talked about the idea of making a synthetic organism that could survive in the Martian environment. So the idea is that you would create a microbe that could survive in a environment with basically no oxygen, but which would produce oxygen through the process of photosynthesis. So it would take the carbon dioxide-rich atmosphere on Mars, take the ice on Mars, and use the water from the ice, and create an environment that was oxygen-rich. Now, this was a really interesting idea, and it's something I've thought about for a long time. There's a lot of problems with this, however. Mars is a very, very cold place. From what I've read online, even the most extremophilic cold-loving organisms can't survive in the types of temperatures that we see on Mars. So Mars is basically a place where you put even the coldest loving microbe there and it'll freeze. And this got me thinking, how do living things that live in cold environments survive? And one of the ways that they survive is by producing antifreeze molecules. Basically, they produce molecules in their bodies naturally that prevent ice from forming and prevent their bodies from freezing. And my thought is, hey, if you used say you used 3 different types of antifreeze molecules, and you put them into the genome of some kind of synthetic organism, this would be a radical idea. This would possibly make it where this organism could survive in even lower temperatures than any organism we see on Earth today. And if you combine this with the possibility of making this organism photosynthetic, then you could potentially turn Mars into a place that is just a little bit more habitable. So perhaps you make it where the environment is, you have more of an oxygen-rich atmosphere. Okay, this would be one step closer towards turning Mars into another place like Earth. And it would do a lot of good. Also, with an organism, they make copies of themselves, they spread. So you don't have to put giant oxygen factories on Mars. You just sprinkle a few microorganisms one time, and ideally they survive and take over the planet. And so my proposal is that in the YouTube comments section, we do something that I call the Mars game. We take this idea of creating a synthetic organism that can survive on Mars, and we take this idea seriously, and we bounce ideas off each other. We basically brainstorm ideas on how to make this possibility into a reality. Now, one thing I do want to say is that it wouldn't be good for people to actually go and create this organism in a laboratory. So if we bounce ideas off each other and we think we come up with something that could actually work, don't actually go into the basement in your laboratory and try to create an organism like this. The reason is, if this should ever escape into the environment on Earth, it could cause a lot of problems. For example, if it were to take hold in Antarctica, it could melt the ice sheets, which would be problematic for obvious reasons. Also, the reason I wanted to do this on YouTube instead of doing this with just other people who have a strong science background like I do, is because a lot of times the collective power of the minds of lay people have been able to figure out things that scientists weren't able to figure out. For example, the popular game Fold It was able to, using the game Fold It, gamers were able to figure out the structure of a protein associated with HIV that biochemists were unable to figure out in 15 years. So scientists spent 15 years, they couldn't figure out what the structure of this protein was. Gamers figured it out in 3 weeks. Now, that's not to say that lay people are necessarily smarter than scientists, obviously, but it does show that the power of collective minds all working together can do amazing things, can accomplish amazing tasks. And so that's why I wanted to do this here as opposed to approaching things in the form of a scientific journal. Now, if we're able to do this, if enough people come together and we're able to gather a community of people and bounce ideas off one another and create the potential of something that could actually survive on Mars and could actually do photosynthesis and convert the atmosphere, then this is something that NASA might take seriously. They might look at this idea and say, hey, this community of people put together something amazing. Let's actually make this into a laboratory and let's actually send this to Mars. And let's do this. And that might sound crazy, but just think about where things were 200 years ago. The idea of wiping out polio. I mean, that was an amazing, that would proposing might seem like the stuff of science fiction. It might seem like something that's impossible. But when my grandma was a kid, she was told that human beings would never go to the moon. They thought that the idea that human beings would go to the moon would be an impossible task. Now we're talking about putting human beings on Mars. And it's something that the space agencies of the world are taking very seriously. Also, you just think of how far science has come in the past 100 years. 100 years ago, we did not have genetic engineering. 100 years ago, we didn't understand what DNA was. Now look at how far we've come. Look at how many amazing things we have. I'm recording this on a tiny device that's more powerful than the most powerful computers that my mother would have seen when she was in high school. So, I don't think this is impossible. I think it's a wonderful idea, and I think it's something to take seriously. Leave your ideas in the comments section, respond to other people's ideas, give thumbs up, let people know what you think, and really come up with ideas, really brainstorm, and tell other people what you think. And also, don't be intimidated. If you don't have a science background, big deal. If you say, people will learn from each other, and I still want to hear what you have to say. I don't care if you're a baker from North Dakota. I don't care if you're a stay-at-home mom somewhere who just stumbled across this video. Let's hear what you think, and let's hear what ideas you have. Because together, I think we can all come up with ideas that might make this possible and might be able to make the world a better place. And in this case, maybe make a second world a better place for humanity. Thank you so much for watching this video. This is Greg, out.